Welcome to the all-new BlackWarGreymon Ace deck gameplay guide for EX10. One of my personal favorite decks that I'm going to be playing, and I'm starting off with the black base. I've been testing out with very many different iterations of this deck, and I can't wait to show you guys. So we're going to start off with this here. We're facing off against Malomyotis Loop, which is certainly a very scary deck, but I feel like in this matchup we might have a little bit of an advantage in terms of taking out their tamers and slowing them down. I'm going to show you guys how to do it. I decided to mulligan my hand just because we are going first and we're not really able to climb up efficiently with the cards that we have. So here it looks a lot more better because now I can evo into Agumon in the back. I can evo into the Agu X as well, which can evo on top of regular Agumon despite the color, and then also going into gray, and now I can push out and go into a Rise Gray. The reason why I play Rise Gray is because I feel like establishing your tamers on the board is really important. That includes Yuko as well as Ties, and being able to play them out for free is really great. Alongside with a security attack +1 is the damage that we need to help push games, and I'm going to show you guys how this is going to help us deal the damage that we need and continue pushing forward. The opponent is going to swing with Uko. They are not afraid if we potentially go into BlackWarGrey Ace, because if we go into BlackWarGrey Ace and if we have it, we can actually gain a bunch of memory back, draw cards as well, and delete their tamers. But here I decide, yeah, well, I don't have one anyways, so that's totally fine. So they get to cycle and draw through with Uko. This is a very important matchup where it comes down to really trying to race against them before they're able to get there. So here I am going to go into my own BlackWarGrey Ace. I noticed that they have Yukio, which is one of the most important tamers of the deck, to help them start at 3. By deleting it, we then get to swing 2 checks. And we're not going to have a lot of DP in the black base version, which we are susceptible if we run into a Malomyotis mod. We're going to get deleted and gain Ace Overflow. But luckily, we're able to go through the checks, and we're going to start building a secondary stack in the back, which is one of the things I like about the black base, because there's some really nice control to elements when it comes to taunting attacks, and is more reactive and defensive as well at the same time. And it has like a slower, steady sort of win condition in order to get there. So here we have both these stacks out. We're putting the opponent to only 1 memory. We're already presenting lethal at the next turn, assuming if we're able to get all the checks through and we won't get deleted, but we can even just go for gray attack and then BlackWarGrey Ace to finish it off there. And with 1 memory, what can they really do here? You know, with analog use, they're not really going to gain the memory off of it if they can't go into Myotis Mon and then go into Myotis X on top of it to have a level 5 or beyond with sources underneath. So it looks like they're going to play out the new Greymon. They're gonna have to use their tamers to delete to reduce the cost, and with that it does end up deleting our Greymon, which is unfortunate. I guess looking back here, I should have been a little bit more careful instead of just pushing out the Greymon for no reason, because then if I left it in raising, this Arukenny play wouldn't have been able to delete it. But who knows, the opponent may have played something else completely different, because they do know they have to address the lethal there at that point. Now with the undeletion of their tamer Arukenny and Mummy, they get to play out another Arukenny back from the trash, and they're going to cycle through the top 5 cards and pretty much get to trash 2 purple cards, which is going to help set up on the trash. But once again, they're going to need 3 memory in order if they're able to complete the loop and take us down. So we're going to have to continue to pressure on as much as I can. Here I'm contemplating if I want to swing and raid, redirect attacks and gain a bunch of memory to sort of get a bit more value off that way, but I felt like it wasn't really necessary. I'm just going to go for the check, and luckily here we weren't able to run into anything that could give them value such as boost or any other tamers. So I'm going to take this as slow as I can. I'm going to Digivolve into the Greymon BT12 at the back for 3 costs, by going on top of a black Digimon instead of using the alternative dissolution requirements, in order to put the opponent back to 1 memory, giving them as little resources as possible to work with. At the end of the turn, the older Arukenimon does get deleted because it was played off the tamer, which only lasts until the opponent's turn. But with that, they're able to play out the Yukio from the trash of the on deletion effect of Arukenimon, and that allows them to establish the Yukio on the board, which then gives them a memory setters to start at 3, where they can potentially start pulling off some combos. But with them at 0 security, we are definitely pressuring here. Looks like they're gonna have to go for a Myotismon play by deleting another of their other Arukenny on the side, and then this is where they can try to play another tamer here and maybe start going for the Malo loops. Now, the one thing that we also have on edge compared to in this matchup is when they go into Malomyotismon. If Malomyotismon is 14k or anything that's 13k or higher, our BlackWarGrey Ace is going to immediately gain the immunity. And with that, they're not going to be able to push through, and the Mummymon is really the answer to de-digivolve. So here with the Blocker Myotismon with Retail, we're going to be a little bit careful here, but I feel like I have more than enough memory. I can easily go in for this and try to swing for game, and even with that, I get to gain a bunch of memory too at the same time if they redirect the attacks with the Greymon and Agumon. And even with Ace Overflow, I lose 4 memory. Since their board is empty, I finish it off with Grey X on the side. This game, we're facing off against the all-new, revamped, retrained Apocalymon and the Dark Masters deck from EX10. So I switched gears up here a little bit to go for a red base instead of the black base, just because I felt like I need the aggression. I need to want to try to enclose games a little bit more proactively instead of playing a reactive playstyle just like before. And I felt like we kind of got a little lucky in the first match against the Myotis, just because the opponent wasn't able to set up their pieces quick enough, and we're able to somehow actually still pull through in the end. So here I want to go for a red base because, like I mentioned, by racking up additional DP and Secret Attack +1 inherited effects, that's my main goal, to actually push for damage and also try to proactively win games myself without necessarily needing the opponent to have a Digimon on board. The Dark Masters deck now is very control heavy. They're really good at going back into the security, kind of like a security control deck, which hides back there to give them additional health so that can stay long. It is also a bit of like a time ticking bomb, where in this matchup, if they're able to get into Apocalymon and play out all the 4 Dark Masters, it's really difficult. And we really want to prioritize on the DP buffs in order to run over the big bodies in security, which we don't want to end up running into an Apocalymon without enough damage or power where our whole stack gets deleted. So we want to go for as much attack as we can at the same time. So I'm trying to set up as much as I can. But here the opponent does play a Digimon Emperor, but I feel like I see this is the only way for me to continue to pull through and go up. So I go into Agu X, and then I get to search and grab a piece, as well as have to digivolve up into this Greymon here and continue on. The thing is that I do have the whole line to go all the way up, so I'm contemplating how I want to play around this and see if I can actually also play around the Machinedramon at the same time, because as soon as the opponent pushes it out, it attacks and it can immediately de-digivolve 2 on my stack, which is going to be pretty tricky for me to play around. But this is one way to sort of go here, where I'm going to go into the new Metal Greymon, which can taunt the opponent's Digimon to attack, also giving it kind of like collision, so we're going to be able to block. By doing so, we can use blast timing to go into BlackWarGreymon Ace first, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete something, and I'm going to block the attack, and then I can use Yuko to give it Digimon effect immunity and extra DP buff until the end of that particular turn, negating the effects of Machinedramon being able to go over into us. And with that, if they do push out the Machinedramon, I'm going to attack and raid over the Machinedramon afterwards in the following turn. So the opponent did realize this, and they did the right thing to stay in the back instead. But either way, I'm still going to go into the BlackWarGrey Ace just because I feel like I need to start attacking as much as I can. I don't want to give them enough time to start racking up enough Dark Masters in the security. So I want to start attacking with this first initial stack and then potentially build a bigger one and go for massive damage to maybe just clear out the rest of security and then try to find Omnimon X to finish the game off in one single blow. So here, I'm able to sort of control a little bit in the momentum, which is good. I have a lot more resources I can work with, and looks like, unfortunately, the opponent decides to pass here without finishing off with a play. So this gives us the green light to go ahead and start attacking as much as we can. Once again, the DP buffs is going to be important to help us ensure that we can go over the mega stuff. We're going to swing in security, and then now we can continue rebuilding if we need to, or take things a little slower as well. I find myself the memory setter security attack +1 tie, which is going to be really helpful later on as well to give us the extra damage that we need. So then I'm decided to, this is the perfect moment to put it down at the moment. I can take my time here a little bit just for this particular moment, just to set up and just to put the opponent down to 1 memory perfectly. And then I will begin playing at 3 memory at the start of my every turn now instead. The opponent, of course, at this moment is going to take out the opportunity and push out their Machinedramon, and it's going to de-digivolve 2, then give them Ace Overflow and a bunch of memory, which I anticipated already regardless by going into this BlackWarGrey, but I have to find a way and keep climbing. I have to draw cards. I have to find all my other stack building pieces. So once again, I'm trying to do the best I can to grab the security attack +1 inherent effects in there, but also juggling the additional DP buffs at the same time. The opponent now then ends the turn by going to the Piedmon here. And as I thought, I think blocking the attack with my Greymon, even though it got de-digivolved from the BlackWarGreymon, would have been better, because then I would at least prevent them from chipping that one security. They're able to beat us down bit by bit. So because of that, I lost my Greymon anyways in the end. But that's okay, because I feel like I can continue to find my pieces here once again, like I mentioned, and rack up the stuff that I need in order to climb up and do what I need to do. So I'm going to Digivolve to Uggo X in the back, and what I did was basically pass them back to 1 once again by going into the BT12 Greymon, which is going to give us the extra 1000 DP buff that we need. So they're going to continue beating this down with this Machinedramon. Since it wasn't played via the effect and was pushed out from the breeding, it's not going to end up deleting at the end of the turn. They are going to go ahead and play out a Mephisto, and with that they get to bomb deck the Apocalypse from the trash, and then by doing so I believe they get to reduce the play cost of that as well. So here I'm trying to see, is this the right moment to start attacking? The opponent does have 4 security that I'm going to have to break through. I felt like I could wait a little bit, but I feel like this is also where I kind of made a bit of a mistake or suboptimal play, because now the momentum is switching back towards the opponent, where they're able to start presenting lethal in the following turn if they continue to attack here, and if they're able to establish bodies out. Even though I put down the 2 ties, I feel like I need more extra DP buffs in case if I do run into the Apocalypse and the security, and I felt like, you know what, I can go for explosive play, but the miscalculation was I don't think I have enough damage. But we'll see where we can go. We can possibly even control the board and stay in defensive for a little bit, just because I have quite a few tools I can work with to prolong the game a little bit more. But even with that, we don't have a lot of time. The amount of value the Machinedramon's gone throughout the entire game has been beating us down non-stop bit by bit. Same goes for this Mephistomon being able to survive and doesn't die to the security from the check. Now they end the turn with a Gigadramon searching for additional Dark Master pieces, and then using the end of turn effect to delete the Mephistomon here, and then get to play out a Dark Master in the breeding area. And alongside with Mephistomon's on deletion effect, they also get to play another Dark Master, which is pretty crazy with that combo. Pretty sick, not gonna lie there. And they're gonna be able to further control the board if they need to as well. And it looks like we did see them grab a Metal Siegramon and a Puppetmon, so it probably makes sense. Unless they have something else, they probably go for the Metal Sea, which is going to stun down one of our Tamers, and they go for Yuko, preventing us from being able to gain DP. And if we ever redirect attacks, we're not going to be able to gain the Digimon effect immunity for the turn as well, which is going to be crucial and a very big pivoting point. But here, we got no other choice. They're presenting lethal already at this point. We have to push out and start trying to deal that damage that we need, and hopefully we can do what we can do. We're going to go and gain a bunch of memory just by Digivolving all the way up here, just by simply going to Rise Gray. Having that security attack +1 once again is really important, and the same reason why I play it for the both black and red base is because it helps us establish Tamers in the early stages if we ever need to. In order to play around the opponent's ace, I decided to go into the older BT8 BlackWarGreymon here, and by doing so, we can play around any potential level 6s that they may have, like they Blast Digivolve on top of the Gigadramon. The Dark Masters deck can play the new BlackWarGreymon ace, they can play Beelzemon, they can play a bunch of stuff, Puppetmon ace, as well as Vikemon ace. Anything can go. So we're gonna go ahead and swing over that Machinedramon first. The Machinedramon is gonna go into security. We missed it at that particular moment, but it is gonna go in there. We realize that it should be. So even though with that, the opponent still has 2 security left, I'm gonna Proto Form and trying to go to BlackWarGrey X, because I think I can sustain here. I can possibly try to wipe out their board, and by doing so, my intention is to use the reboot to stand my BlackWarGrey X back up, and I can end up deleting the Metal Siegramon, and then the opponent will no longer have lethal there. But this is where I realized the mistake, because I went for the ending turn with Hades Force to clear out all of their Tamers, which I thought was good value, but in reality, I think I should have actually targeted the Metal Siegramon and get rid of that alongside with something else, such as the 2-cost map, because at the end of turn, before we even get to reboot, the opponent plays out the Machinedramon, and it has the same on play when attacking effect to Digivolve 2 on our BlackWarGreymon X. And unfortunately, because of that, now we're not able to sustain there, and they have 3 bodies here which they can continue, and with the Machinedramon, they continue to attack and Digivolve, and they just finish us off against us, and that is unfortunate. Okay, for this game, we're going to turn it up a notch and try to face against one of probably the meta's best deck, or one of the better decks in the meta right now, which is going to be Omnimon, because it's just incredibly strong with the potential OTK. But one of the edge that this specific deck and BlackWarGreymon Ace specifically has on edge is that it can gain immunity and be unaffected against the Omnimon's effect, so it can't be removed. And want to see how that kind of interaction goes, because this can actually go either way, whether if we can climb there and get there before they potentially OTK us, or if we can stabilize and go into a BlackWarGreymon Ace at the right time, this can actually turn off some of their Omnimon plays and make it way less effective, as we can defend and attack as well at the same time, overpowering the Omnimon. So here I'm building my first initial stack already, and I'm being able to rack up a bunch of security attack +1s, which isn't really ideal. So I decided to see this is a really good opportunity to go into the older BlackWarGrey first by deleting both the Gabu and the Mirai just to slow them down, just once again because it is relatively a tamer heavy reliant deck on their end. And if we're able to get rid of them and slow them down, that buys us more time to build a stronger stack and then go for more explosive damage and then finish them off from there. So I'm going to start and chip away with the BlackWarGreymon first. Either way, I kind of anticipated I might run into something big with like 15k body, just because Omnimon does play a bunch of like level 7s. And without DP buffs, it's no surprise. It's going to be a sooner or later thing, so I don't mind. I just want to continue to cycle through, draw cards, find cards, search, establish this Greymon, and then have a tie ready on the board. But the opponent still has a second Mirai out already, and they are able to dish out their Nokia, which is going to give them the on-play effects, and they get to be able to play out their Gabu and continue searching here, and they can easily then start DNA, which is relatively scary, alongside with the tie and mat that they have on the board too. And we don't have a whole lot to work with either, but I'm okay here at the moment just because I know for sure they can't really keep their turn and go for the OTK, although they're going to gain a bunch of memory off of that mat and tie. Depending on which Omni they go into, they may not be able to attack either, because if they go into the new Omni, that one allows them to attack with its own when Digivolving effect. But it looks like here they're going to go into the Alter S, and by going into the Alter S, they're not going to be able to use the end of turn attack because the end of turn already triggered off of the inherited effects of the rookies, so that the timing is pretty much gone. So they're only going to be able to delete our Greymon, but we have to address this Alter S either way somehow if we can, because if we're able to, then we should be all right. Because if we can't, on the flip side, they are going to go crazy and be able to pressure a potential OTK on us. So we're going to go into the Metal Greymon here, potentially taunting their Alter S to attack, but we're going to go into our stack preemptively. We're going to gain a lot of value. We're finding the Greymon X, the one-of as well, and I'm actually preemptively going to Digivolve into BlackWarGreymon myself, which I think maybe the better plan was to play something else past turn and then just use the Blast Ace capability to evo it for free instead, which I think that was a little bit suboptimal. Here I also kind of forgot about the Metal Greymon X Antibodies effect, which would have actually trashed their security. Which is actually really strong, because here when I block the attack, I will take down the Omni, and by blocking the attack because I redirected, I would trash one security off the Metal Grey, and then like I mentioned, I'm actually supposed to trash one more security off the Metal Grey X, and that would actually put them into a lethal danger zone where we have the lethal on our end to actually push for the game in the following turn if we're able to swing out and then go for an Omnimon X play, which we don't quite have yet. So again, I have to attack eventually. Again, I can't wait for too long because once the Omnimon comes out, so in theory this Mirai should have been gone and they wouldn't be able to get that value when I went for this 2 checks, and they technically would have been 0 security. But don't worry guys, apologies for the mistake there, but just to let you guys know, we're still going to keep this and seal in the bag. We're still going to trash that final security, putting down to 0 no matter what, with only 1 memory to work with. But they still have to start a main with Mirai to play out another Nokia, which is then allow them to play out another potential rookie to further search if they need to. Looks like they're thinking on which one they want to go into, but looks like they don't have one unfortunately. So they're going to have to go into a Metal Gar here, try to stun us down. Or actually this one bottom decks us, so we have the X Antibody Protoform with the Metal Grey, with the Greymon X there to protect us once per turn, which is going to be fantastic. So then our Greymon stack survives, but now we got to think about how we're going to play around the Omnimon if they potentially tries to go into an Ace one. There's no Miraculous Mega Knight on the board either. I'm going to tuck another X Antibody just in case they can go into anyone. They are going to able to blast here into the BT17 one. Although they're going to attempt to like delete us or bottom deck us, they're not going to be able to because we're completely immune to Digimon effects. And this is one of the greatest things about BlackWarGreymon Ace I want to show you guys on how it actually defeats Omnimon, and the Ace doesn't even matter. With the Overflow, we're going to gain a lot of memory. We don't have enough to push out for game. If I pushed out the Agumon there, it would have been gone. So I actually be able to cycle and draw through a bunch of cards and use OnyX to finish it off instead. OnyX Burst Collection, which is one of my all-time favorites, is now live on the AVAULT Store, and the first 50 collection orders will get a free exclusive OnyX Burst memory marker during this time only. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you next video, and this is AVAULT signing out.